An entire city can exist silently beneath your feet. This is the reality of underground cities, hidden realms carved from solid rock that hold forgotten chapters of human history. By the end of this journey, you will understand the astonishing engineering and profound human stories that made these subterranean worlds possible. We will uncover why civilizations chose to build downwards into the earth and what secrets they were so desperate to protect. How does a society thrive for generations without ever seeing the sun? This deep connection to the earth is written into our oldest stories. For millennia, cultures across the globe have seen the world beneath our feet not as empty space, but as a realm of immense power and mystery. It was a place of both profound fear and sacred protection, a final resting place for the departed and a hiding place for the living. This duality is the very soul of the underground city. In ancient Mesopotamia, the ziggurat reached for the heavens, but its foundations plunged deep into the earth, symbolizing a bridge between the divine above and the chthonic powers below. The Egyptians meticulously prepared elaborate tombs within the rock, believing the subterranean world was a necessary passage to the afterlife. Meanwhile, in Cappadocia, early Christians were not just hiding from persecution, they were carving out entire churches and monasteries in the soft volcanic stone, turning the earth itself into a place of worship and community. This was not merely excavation, it was a form of reverence. The earth provided sanctuary from invading armies, shelter from scorching deserts, and a sacred silence for spiritual contemplation. It was this powerful blend of practical need and spiritual belief that compelled humanity to dig, to carve, and to build civilizations in the dark. And to accomplish this, they had to become masters of a hidden art, an engineering genius born from the very rock they called home. These ventilation shafts were masterpieces of invisible engineering. Think of the sheer scale, carving channels through solid rock that plunged deeper than the height of a 20-story building. Each shaft was a lifeline, a narrow conduit for the one resource no one could live without: air. The builders understood that stale air meant a slow end for everyone hiding below, so they engineered a passive system that used natural temperature differences to create a constant, gentle breeze. Cooler, denser air from the surface would sink down the shafts, displacing the warmer, used air from the living quarters and forcing it out through other passages. This created a self-regulating cycle of refreshment, all without a single moving part. The strategic placement of these air wells was just as critical as their construction. Many were hidden among rocky outcrops or within natural fissures, their openings looking like nothing more than rabbit holes or cracks in the earth to any searching army above. This ensured the city remained completely concealed, its breathing apparatus utterly undetectable. This silent, automatic system did more than just prevent the air from growing heavy, it allowed for a semblance of normal life. Families could light cooking fires without fear of smoke filling their homes, and the thousands of residents could live for months without emerging into the sunlight. This was not a dark, suffocating tomb, but a living, breathing city. Such foresight reveals a sophisticated knowledge of physics and urban planning that we often associate only with the modern era. How did they achieve such precision with only simple tools? Their genius extended to managing another vital resource, one that flows even deeper than air. But securing a breathable atmosphere was only half the challenge. A hidden city lives or dies by its water. Deep within the earth, the architects of these subterranean worlds solved this problem with a quiet genius by tapping directly into the planet's own hidden veins. They learned to locate and harness underground aquifers, vast natural reservoirs held within porous rock. This was not a simple matter of digging a well. It was about integrating a permanent, secure water source into the very blueprint of the city. The wells they carved plunged down to the water table, their openings protected deep inside the labyrinth, ensuring no invading force could find, let alone poison, the community's lifeblood. This self-contained system was the ultimate safeguard. In the ancient city of Petra, a marvel carved into rose-red cliffs, the challenge was different but the ingenuity was the same. In that arid landscape, they engineered an intricate network of channels and dams to capture every precious drop of sporadic rainfall. This water was then funneled through narrow gorges and into hidden cisterns, sealed away from the evaporating sun. These hydrological feats required a profound understanding of the land itself, an ability to read the geology and predict the flow of water. It meant a community could seal its doors for months or even years during a siege or a devastating drought and still have a steady, reliable supply. This independence was a staggering strategic advantage, turning a hiding place into an impregnable fortress. Yet, even with air to breathe and water to drink, a final, fundamental need remained to truly endure the long, dark years. How do you feed an entire city when no one can go outside to farm? The air was fresh and the water flowed, but a city cannot survive on these alone. An empty larder meant a slow surrender. To feed thousands in perpetual darkness required a different kind of magic, one of preservation and quiet cultivation. Deep within the earth, they constructed vast, silent granaries, chambers carved specifically to hold mountains of grain, dried legumes, and preserved foods. These were not simple closets but climate-controlled marvels. The earth itself provided a natural, constant chill, a refrigeration system that kept supplies edible for years. Food was stored in enormous ceramic jars or in specially designed pits, sealed against the relentless dampness and hidden from any pests that might find their way in. This was their strategic reserve, the stockpile that would see them through a long siege. But some communities went even further. In chambers where a faint breath of air and a trickle of moisture found their way down from the surface, they practiced a form of subterranean farming. They cultivated certain types of fungi and hardy plants that could thrive without direct sunlight, using compost and the minimal humidity from the ventilation shafts. This was not a sun-drenched field, but a garden of shadows, a testament to human adaptability. This combination of massive storage and limited cultivation created a self-sufficient ecosystem, a true ark sealed beneath the ground. It meant life could continue its rhythm with meals shared in the dim glow of oil lamps, completely detached from the world above. Such a complex operation, however, demanded more than just brilliant engineering. It required a social blueprint, a set of unspoken rules that governed every aspect of life in the perpetual twilight. How did a community learn to live, work, and find meaning when the sun was only a memory? This intricate social machine was housed in a world of shadows and stone. Far from a chaotic scramble for survival, these underground metropolises were models of meticulous organization, with every corridor and chamber serving a distinct purpose. Entire levels were dedicated to specific functions, creating a vertical neighborhood. You would find residential quarters, often carved out for individual families, clustered around shared kitchens where the communal fire burned. The air might carry the familiar scent of baking bread from a central oven, a small comfort in the perpetual twilight. Deeper within the complex, stables housed the community's precious livestock, their warmth and sounds a reminder of the world above, while their waste was carefully managed for use in the limited subterranean gardens. The most telling spaces of all were the communal halls and surprisingly ornate churches. These were not just places of refuge, but of gathering, worship, and cultural continuity. Their existence proves that life here was about more than mere survival. It was about preserving a way of life. Such a delicate existence demanded absolute cooperation. A strict, unspoken social contract governed every action. Roles were clearly defined, with individuals assigned to critical tasks like monitoring the ventilation shafts for blockages, meticulously distributing water and food stores, repairing the endless stone corridors, and educating the children in the skills needed to maintain this hidden world. This enforced cohesion forged a powerful community spirit, a unique bond born from shared adversity and the ever-present threat from the surface. Everyone understood that their personal survival was inextricably linked to the well-being of the whole. This deep-seated need for order and meaning, for a connection to something greater than the immediate struggle, found its most profound expression in the spiritual sanctuaries they carved from the living rock. The sound of a single voice raised in prayer could fill these cavernous halls, amplified by stone to become a chorus. In the deepest, most hidden levels of these cities, the inhabitants carved out spaces not just for the body, but for the soul. These were not crude altars in dark corners, but breathtaking subterranean churches and temples, their very existence a declaration that faith could flourish even in perpetual darkness. In the Cappadocia region of Turkey, master artisans transformed soft volcanic rock into full-scale basilicas complete with domed ceilings, arched columns, and rows of pews, all hidden from the world above. Their walls were not left bare, they were covered in vibrant frescoes depicting scenes from scripture, the colors glowing in the flickering light of oil lamps. This sacred art served a dual purpose. It was a visual Bible for a community that might have had few written texts, and it was a profound source of solace and spiritual strength during times of intense persecution. The architecture itself was a form of devotion. Builders carefully shaped the chambers to create perfect acoustics so that chants and hymns would resonate, their harmonies washing over the congregation in a powerful, immersive wave. This was a deliberate effort to create an atmosphere of transcendence, to make the underground feel not like a prison but a sanctuary. The sheer effort required to carve such elaborate spaces reveals a fundamental truth. These were not frightened people cowering in a hole. They were an established community, determined to protect and perpetuate a rich cultural and spiritual identity. They invested their greatest artistic and architectural efforts into these places of worship, proving that their most valued treasure was not their stored grain or their hidden water supply, but their faith. And to protect that sacred way of life, they engineered defenses of almost unimaginable cunning. The entrance to this hidden world was a secret kept with absolute perfection. A simple well in a village courtyard might descend into a sheer drop, but halfway down its shaft, a cleverly disguised opening led not to water, but to the first corridor of a sprawling subterranean fortress. A massive, wheel-shaped stone door, perfectly balanced on a central pivot, could be rolled across a passage with the push of a single person, sealing the city off from the world in moments. From the surface, these gates were invisible, blending seamlessly into the surrounding rock face. Once inside, any invader would face a nightmare of confusion. The corridors were a masterclass in defensive design, a three-dimensional labyrinth intended to disorient and trap. A wide passage would suddenly narrow to a point where only one person could squeeze through sideways, making them an easy target. Seemingly important tunnels would lead only to dead-end chambers or sheer drops. Trapdoors hidden in floors could be released to plunge attackers into pits or seal off entire residential levels from below. This was not a maze meant to be solved, it was a kill box designed to break the will of any invading force, but the ultimate safeguard was the hidden exit. While an army battered itself against the sealed main entrance, the entire population could be flowing silently through a secret escape tunnel, sometimes stretching for miles, that emerged in a remote valley or a hidden cave system. This was the genius of their defense. It relied not on brute strength, but on absolute concealment and psychological warfare. An enemy could stand directly above the city and have no idea it was there, or they could enter and simply vanish into its stone intestines. Such a complex system of hidden doors and distant exits, however, could not function without a nervous system, a way for the entire community to communicate and react as one to a threat from the surface. How did they coordinate a complete vanishing act in absolute silence? A whisper could travel farther than a shout in this stone labyrinth. The architects of these cities understood that their greatest weapon was information, and they designed the very walls to carry it. Specific corridors were carved with a parabolic precision, functioning as natural speaking tubes. A quiet word spoken into one end of a passage would travel with uncanny clarity to a listening guard dozens of meters away, allowing for silent coordination and instant warnings without a single torch being lit or position being revealed. This acoustic engineering was the city's nervous system. At strategic listening posts, often located directly beneath surface features like wells or ventilation shafts, sentries would spend hours in absolute silence, their ears tuned to the world above. They could distinguish the mundane sounds of animals from the telltale scrape of a shovel or the muffled conversation of searching soldiers, giving the community below precious moments to prepare. For more complex messages, a language of coded knocks evolved. A specific sequence of taps on a rock wall or a water pipe could signal everything from all clear to full evacuation, a silent code understood by every resident. In the largest complexes, where distances were too great for whispers to travel, a different system took over. Young, agile messengers who knew every twist and turn of the tunnels as if they were the streets of their own home would sprint through the darkness. They were the living pulse of the city, carrying urgent news from community leaders to the farthest defense posts or guiding families to safe zones during a drill or a real threat. This intricate combination of ancient physics and human agility created a communication network of stunning efficiency. It meant that an entire population, numbering in the thousands, could transition from the quiet rhythm of daily life to a state of complete lockdown or a coordinated evacuation in a matter of minutes. This was not a society living in fear, but one operating with a profound, practiced discipline. The silent, swift flow of information was the glue that held the entire intricate operation together, a system perfected over generations of quiet adaptation. The impulse to build downward is etched into the deepest layers of our past. Long before the great underground cities, our earliest ancestors sought refuge in the natural embrace of caves, using them not only for shelter from the elements, but as the first sacred spaces for ritual and community gathering. This was the seed from which everything else would grow. As human societies evolved from nomadic tribes into settled towns, their subterranean ambitions expanded in scale and complexity. In the ancient settlement of Çatalhöyük, one of the world's first proto-cities, residents built a dense honeycomb of interconnected dwellings, entering their homes through openings in the roof, a design that created a continuous, village-wide surface that felt both communal and deeply protective. Across the sea on the island of Sardinia, the Nuragic civilization constructed massive stone towers called Nurag, formidable structures that stood above ground but were often linked to deep, sacred wells and intricate underground temples, binding the community to the Earth's hidden powers. The thread continued through the Middle Ages, where beneath great cathedrals, sprawling crypts and catacombs housed both the departed and the living during times of conflict, their stone passages echoing with chant and ceremony. This evolutionary path reveals a constant dialogue between threat and innovation. The same fundamental need for safety that once drove people into caves would, millennia later, during the global tensions of the Cold War, drive governments to excavate enormous bunkers and command centers designed to withstand the unthinkable force of nuclear fallout. The tools changed from simple stone picks to massive boring machines, and the threats evolved from rival tribes to world-altering weapons, but the human response remained strikingly familiar: to find security within the planet itself. Each of these eras has left a distinct signature in the strata, a layered history of human adaptation that we are only now learning to read in full. This story is not confined to one continent, as the same powerful logic of subterranean life was unfolding with breathtaking artistry on the other side of the world. Across the globe in Asia, the same ancient logic of subterranean refuge was being perfected under the shadow of conflict. In the vast plains of northern China, villagers facing the constant threat of bandit raids carved out the intricate Dingzhu diggings. This was not a single city but a sprawling, hidden landscape beneath their feet, complete with family quarters, silent granaries, and even small, humble temples where they could seek solace. Life in these tunnels was a carefully orchestrated disappearing act, with entire communities vanishing from the surface in moments, leaving their pursuers baffled by an empty landscape. Far to the south, during the prolonged challenges of the Vietnam War, this concept evolved into a formidable military asset. The Ku Kai tunnels near Ho Chi Minh City formed an underground metropolis housing thousands. Just meters below the surface, soldiers lived in cramped quarters, but the network also included field hospitals for the wounded, workshops for crafting simple weapons, and command centers directing complex operations. The true genius of these spaces lay in their brutal simplicity. They used the local red clay, a soil that hardened perfectly when exposed to air, to create structures that were both resilient and easily repairable. Trapdoors were camouflaged with leaves and soil, and cooking smoke was vented through openings disguised as termite mounds, making the entire network virtually invisible from above. This demonstrated a profound form of ingenuity, one that used intimate knowledge of the local environment to confound a far more technologically advanced adversary. The sheer resilience required to live and fight in such conditions for years on end speaks to an unbreakable human spirit, a quality that finds a powerful echo in the even older, grander rock-cut cities of the Middle East. The sheer scale of these Middle Eastern fortresses defies easy comprehension. In the rose-red canyons of Petra, the famous treasury facade is merely the grand entrance to a city carved from the inside out. Beyond that iconic view, the Nabateans chiseled an entire metropolis into the sandstone, a labyrinth of tombs, temples, and sophisticated water channels that turned a desert stronghold into the beating heart of ancient trade routes. This was not a city built upon the land, but one extracted from it, its very walls serving as both structure and spectacle. Similarly, the otherworldly landscape of Cappadocia provided the perfect canvas for subterranean ambition. The region's soft volcanic rock, known as tuff, was soft enough to carve with simple hand tools yet hardened upon exposure to air, creating a miraculously stable building material. This geology allowed for the creation of staggering complexes like Derinkuyu, a city that plunged 18 levels deep into the earth, complete with ventilation shafts, churches, wineries, and stables for thousands of animals. These were not temporary hideouts, but deeply integrated components of a surface civilization. life flowed between the world above and the world below with a natural rhythm. People tended their vineyards on the surface by day and retreated to the safety of their stone-cut homes by night, their existence a perfect symbiosis with the earth. This seamless integration required a social order as complex as the architecture itself. The creation of these spaces was a generational project, a testament to a collective will that is almost unimaginable today. Who were the hands that patiently carved these worlds from solid stone, and what drove them to undertake a task that would not see completion in their own lifetimes? The names of these master builders are lost to us, their stories written not on parchment but in the very stone they carved. With few written records to guide us, we must listen to the archaeology, to the subtle clues left in tool marks and architectural choices. In Cappadocia, the evidence points strongly to communities of early Christians who saw in the region's soft rock not just a hiding place but a canvas for their faith. They did not start from nothing, instead expanding natural caves and fissures into a labyrinth of chapels, refectories, and homes, their work a physical prayer for protection and perseverance. Elsewhere, the scale of excavation suggests a different kind of architect, the entire community itself. This was a generational endeavor where the knowledge of how to carve a stable arch, channel a water source, and disguise a ventilation shaft was passed from parent to child, a sacred trust as vital as any harvest. These were not conscripted laborers, but skilled hands, farmers, and artisans who understood the properties of their local stone as intimately as they knew their own fields. Their survival depended on the precision of every chisel strike, the integrity of every supporting pillar. To undertake a project that would not see completion in a single lifetime requires more than just technical skill. It demands a powerful, unifying vision. A society capable of such a feat was undoubtedly highly organized, with clear leadership and a collective will forged in the fires of necessity. That shared purpose, the desperate need for a sanctuary from conflict, is a thread that connects these ancient old world wonders to more modern subterranean endeavors, including those found much closer to home. This human need to build within the earth is a story written across every continent. In North America, the timeline stretches from ancient ceremonial spaces to the stark realities of the 20th century. Long before modern engineering, the ancestral Pueblones were carving out kivas from the living rock. These were not mere holes in the ground, but profound spiritual centers, circular chambers entered through a single opening in the roof. Descending into a kiva on a wooden ladder was a symbolic journey into a sacred realm, a place where the community gathered for rituals that connected them to their ancestors and the cosmos. The architecture itself was a map of their worldview, with features representing the emergence from the underworld and the cardinal directions. This was subterranean space as the heart of cultural identity. Centuries later, a very different kind of underground structure would emerge, born from the global anxieties of the Cold War. The Cheyenne Mountain Complex in Colorado is a city buried deep within solid granite, a nerve center designed to survive a nuclear conflict. Its sheer scale is staggering, with massive steel blast doors weighing many tons, entire buildings mounted on immense springs to absorb the shock of an impact, and its own independent power and water supplies. This was the ultimate expression of the defensive impulse, a technological fortress meant to ensure the continuity of command during an unthinkable event. Even on a more intimate, urban scale, this layering of history is visible. After the Great Fire of 1889, the city of Seattle rebuilt by razing its streets, leaving the original storefronts and sidewalks buried below. This created an entire hidden city beneath the modern metropolis, a time capsule of an earlier era that is now explored by tourists. From the sacred kiva to the strategic bunker, the pattern is unmistakable. Whether seeking connection with the divine or protection from existential threat, humanity has consistently looked downward to find security and meaning. This same impulse to create order and memory in the depths found a particularly poignant expression in the Old World, within the silent, stone corridors of Europe's cities of the dead. Yet even these grand subterranean cities of the living have their quiet counterparts across Europe, spaces that hold not the bustle of daily life but the silent memory of the departed. The catacombs of Paris are perhaps the most profound example, a labyrinth of ancient quarries transformed in the late 18th century into the final resting place for over 6 million individuals. As the city's cemeteries overflowed, creating unbearable conditions for the living, the solution was a monumental effort of relocation, transferring these remains deep underground to create a stark and sobering monument to the city's long history. Walking through these tunnels today, one is surrounded by carefully arranged walls of bones and skulls, a quiet architectural order imposed upon a space of immense scale. This was not an act of disrespect, but one of practical reverence, an attempt to restore dignity and public health by creating a permanent, organized archive of the past. Far to the north, beneath the cobbled streets of Edinburgh, Scotland, lies a different kind of buried history. Here you find not ossuaries, but entire streets and dwellings sealed away from the sun. In the 18th century, the city built a massive stone structure over these old medieval closes, effectively creating a hidden city beneath the modern one. These preserved spaces tell vivid stories of plague outbreaks, of cramped social conditions, and of the dramatic urban planning that sought to erase them. They are a physical record of a society's struggle with disease and growth, a time capsule of hardship and resilience. These European labyrinths challenge our very idea of a city. We often imagine urban landscapes growing ever upward, reaching for the sky, but these spaces remind us that cities also expand and contract downward, building upon their own layered past. They serve as a powerful, tangible archive, a place where the strata of history can be read in stone and bone. And it is this same drive to read the Earth's hidden layers that now fuels a new era of discovery, where modern technology is allowing us to see these forgotten worlds without ever lifting a shovel. The silent stone of these ancient cities is finally beginning to speak. Modern archaeology is no longer solely about the careful scrape of a trowel. It is now powered by a suite of technologies that allow us to see through the Earth itself. Ground-penetrating radar, or GPR, sends pulses of energy into the ground and reads the echoes that bounce back from buried walls and hollow chambers, painting a ghostly image of what lies below without disturbing a single stone. From the air, LiDAR uses lasers to strip away dense vegetation, revealing the subtle contours of man-made mounds and hidden entranceways that are invisible to the naked eye. Drones equipped with thermal sensors fly over the landscape at dawn, detecting the faintest temperature differences. A hidden ventilation shaft, still breathing after centuries of silence, will hold a slightly different temperature than the solid ground around it, betraying its presence with a whisper of heat. These tools have already led to stunning revelations, like the detection of a potential new underground network near the famous sites in Cappadocia, a discovery that suggests our maps of this subterranean world are still profoundly incomplete. This is a paradigm shift in how we understand our past. We are no longer just explorers, we have become listeners, tuning our instruments to hear the faint heartbeat of forgotten cities. Each new scan challenges long-held assumptions, forcing historians to reconsider the true scale and interconnectedness of these underground societies. With this incredible power of discovery, however, comes a profound new responsibility. The very act of uncovering these spaces, of letting in light and modern air, can begin a process of deterioration for structures that have been perfectly preserved in their dark, stable environments for millennia. The question is no longer just what we can find, but how we can protect the fragile worlds we are only now learning to see. A delicate balance of air and moisture preserved these cities for generations, a silent equilibrium now threatened by our own footsteps. The very act of discovery introduces a new danger, as the breath and body heat of thousands of visitors can radically alter the fragile environment within these stone chambers. This shift in humidity and temperature creates an invisible storm, causing ancient paint to flake from frescoes and the very rock to slowly crumble. The challenge is compounded by forces from above, as changing weather patterns bring increased rainfall that seeps into spaces that have been dry for 1,000 years, threatening irreversible damage to their structural integrity. Preservation has become a quiet war fought with sensors and data, where experts meticulously monitor air quality and reinforce unstable sections with hidden supports that hold history in place. This raises a profound dilemma for our time. How do we share these wonders with the world without loving them to death? They are a legacy for all people, yet their survival depends on limits and careful stewardship. This universal pull they exert on our imagination, this sense of a world just beyond our reach, is perhaps why they feature so prominently in the stories we tell ourselves, from ancient folklore to the most modern myths of a hidden world. These stories are the ancient echoes of our oldest fears and wonders. Long before we mapped the subterranean world, we filled its darkness with meaning, creating rich tapestries of folklore to explain the silence beneath the soil. In Greek mythology, the realm of Hades was not merely a gloomy destination for the departed. It was a complex kingdom with its own rules and geography, a place where the river Styx separated the living from the dead. This was not a random choice. The deep, inaccessible earth was the perfect metaphor for the final, irreversible journey. Similarly, Norse legends spoke of Svartalfheima, a cavernous world where the dark elves, master smiths, and magical beings forged powerful artifacts. These myths gave a face and a purpose to the unsettling chasms and echoing caves that early people encountered, transforming natural wonder into cultural narrative. The tales served a profound purpose. They codified a society's values about respect for the dead, the dangers of the unknown, and the hidden forces that shaped their world. This imaginative impulse was not confined to the ancient Mediterranean or the Nordic fjords. It is a universal human response to the mystery of the depths. In the Himalayas, for instance, the legend of Agartha emerged, a fabled kingdom of immense wisdom and advanced technology hidden deep within the earth. Such stories often blur the line between spiritual belief and a kind of speculative history, suggesting that our ancestors sensed a hidden reality behind the physical rock. These enduring myths demonstrate that the human mind has always been a master architect, building elaborate worlds in the dark long before a single tool ever touched stone. The powerful allure of these legends of a lost world waiting to be found would eventually inspire a very different kind of quest, one that sought to prove them true. Our story begins not with grand cities but with the quiet shelter of a cave mouth. Long before the first stone was cut for Derinkuyu, our earliest ancestors found sanctuary in these natural rock formations. The profound legacy of the underground city stretches back to the very dawn of human consciousness, to places like the Lascaux caves in France. Here, by the flickering light of a fat lamp, someone reached out and painted breathtaking images of charging bison and graceful deer onto the stone walls. This was not mere decoration, it was a monumental act. It transformed a simple shelter into the world's first art gallery, a sacred space where the human spirit declared its presence. On the other side of the continent, in South Africa's Blombos Cave, archaeologists uncovered small pieces of ochre engraved with geometric patterns. These markings, dating back tens of thousands of years, are some of the earliest evidence of symbolic thought, a cognitive leap that allowed humans to share ideas and beliefs that extended beyond the immediate moment. The consistent climate and protection of these caves provided the stability necessary for such profound developments to take root. They were incubators for culture, allowing for the slow fermentation of complex social behaviors, the sharing of knowledge across generations, and the birth of ritual and shared identity. This deep-seated connection suggests that our drive to inhabit the Earth is not just a reaction to threat, but a fundamental part of our psychological inheritance. The cave was our first stable home, our first temple, and our first canvas. This primal relationship with the subterranean world is a thread that runs unbroken through human history, a legacy written in stone that continues to whisper to us, compelling us to explore the world beneath our feet. The ancient impulse to build downward did not vanish with the advent of steel and glass. It simply evolved. Today, our most advanced cities are not just reaching for the sky, they are deliberately expanding their roots deep into the ground. Beneath the neon-lit streets of Tokyo, a parallel metropolis thrives, a multi-level labyrinth of subterranean shopping arcades, train stations, and pedestrian thoroughfares so vast that you could live for weeks without ever needing to surface. This is not a place of hiding, but one of hyper-efficiency, a climate-controlled solution to the crushing density of the world above. In Montreal, the aptly named Underground City, or RESO, stretches for over 20 miles, connecting offices, universities, concert halls, and apartments, allowing life to flow seamlessly through the city while fierce Canadian winters rage outside. These spaces are the modern expression of an age-old idea, using the Earth's constant temperature and protective embrace to create a more resilient urban fabric. This logic extends far beyond shopping malls and transit hubs. Carved into the cool, stable environment of former limestone mines beneath the American Midwest, you will find a different kind of subterranean city, one that powers our digital world. Here, in cavernous halls kept in perpetual twilight, endless rows of servers hum with the data of global corporations. The Earth provides a perfect passive cooling system and unparalleled physical security, making it the ideal guardian for the world's most valuable information. These contemporary projects are the direct descendants of Derinkuyu and the Kukai tunnels, solving modern problems of space, energy, and security by looking down. They prove that the world beneath our feet remains a vital frontier for human innovation, a testing ground for how we might address future challenges like overpopulation and a changing climate. This ongoing exploration, however, is not without its own profound questions. As we carve ever deeper into the planet, we must ask what it means for our connection to the natural world and to each other. The very stone that once sheltered our ancestors now serves as a blueprint for our future. As our surface cities strain under the pressures of growing populations and a changing climate, a radical solution is gaining traction: the deliberate design of entire subsurface communities. These are not the dark, cramped bunkers of old nightmares, but multi-layered urban environments envisioned as models of sustainability. Imagine vertical neighborhoods stacked deep within the earth, where geothermal energy provides a constant, clean power source, and vast, sunless farms grow fresh produce under specialized lights. Every drop of water would be meticulously purified and recycled, and all waste would be processed into nutrients or energy, creating a near-perfect closed-loop system. The Earth itself would become a natural insulator, maintaining a comfortable year-round temperature that would slash the enormous energy demands of traditional heating and air conditioning. This protective layer of rock and soil would also offer a profound resilience, buffering against increasingly violent storms, rising sea levels, and even the lingering threats of global instability. The technological pieces for this vision are rapidly falling into place, drawing direct and conscious inspiration from the ventilation shafts of Derinkuyu and the water management of ancient Petra. Yet the greatest hurdles are not engineering challenges but human ones. How would our minds and our social structures adapt to a life without a sunrise or a horizon? The psychological adjustment to perpetual artificial light and the lack of natural vistas presents a significant frontier of its own. This potential future forces a remarkable re-evaluation of the past. We can no longer see these ancient underground cities as mere historical curiosities or desperate hideouts. They become, instead, a long-term experiment in subterranean living, a 1,000-year-old source of practical wisdom. They teach us about community cohesion in confined spaces, the vital importance of sacred and social areas, and the profound need to engineer not just for survival, but for the human spirit. The secrets we are still uncovering from these buried worlds may well hold the key to building a sustainable future, proving that the path forward might just lie in looking back, deep into the ground beneath our feet. A single blocked passage can hide an entire undiscovered world. For all the chambers we have mapped and the corridors we have walked, these subterranean realms still guard their deepest secrets with a stubborn silence. In the depths of Derinkuyu, researchers once cleared a long-forgotten ventilation shaft, only to find it drawing air not from the surface, but from a vast, sealed chamber below, a level no one knew existed. This suggests the city plunges even deeper into the earth, its full scale still a mystery. Across these ancient sites, the story is the same, tantalizing hints of a hidden anatomy. Ground-penetrating radar scans often reveal phantom voids, empty spaces behind walls that echo with a hollow promise, while local legends speak of tunnels that once connected cities miles apart, forming a secret web beneath the landscape. What lies in these lost rooms? The possibilities are as haunting as the silence. Perhaps one holds a sealed library, its clay tablets or scrolls preserving the true history of the people who built this place, their laws, their stories, and the real reason they eventually sealed their doors and vanished. Another chamber might contain a communal hall frozen in time, with the artifacts of daily life left exactly as they were, offering a pristine snapshot of the final days. These unanswered questions are the true soul of the mystery. They remind us that every mapped corridor is surrounded by a much larger darkness, an unexplored frontier that challenges our assumptions. The next great revelation might not require a grand expedition to a distant land, but simply a fresh look at a familiar wall, waiting for a clever eye to notice a subtle draft or a curious resonance in the stone. The darkness was not merely an absence of light, but a constant, tangible presence. For generations raised in this perpetual twilight, the sun became a story told by elders, a memory that faded with each passing year underground. This profound separation from the natural world must have reshaped their very consciousness, forging a unique culture born from the rock around them. In such an environment, the individual self could not thrive in isolation. Survival was a collective endeavor that fostered an almost familial bond among residents. This intense interdependence was their greatest psychological shield against the oppressive weight of the earth above them. Yet, modern understanding suggests the human mind would have wrestled with this reality. Without the daily rhythm of sunrise and sunset to regulate their bodies, many likely experienced a deep, persistent melancholy, a state akin to the seasonal affective disorder we recognize today, but without a seasonal end in sight. The confined spaces, no matter how vast, could have triggered profound anxiety, a primal fear of being forever sealed away. So how did they not only endure but build a civilization in the dark? The answer lies in the deliberate cultivation of an inner world. Their rituals were not occasional events, they were the pillars of their existence. The act of gathering in those echoing rock-cut churches, their voices united in chant, was a powerful affirmation of shared identity and hope. Storytellers became vital custodians of morale, spinning tales that stretched beyond the stone walls, connecting the community to a cosmic drama of heroes, saints, and a world bathed in light. The vibrant frescoes on their walls were more than decoration, they were windows to a spiritual realm, a splash of color and meaning in a monochrome world. This rich cultural life was not a luxury, it was as essential as their hidden water supply. It provided the light for the mind when there was none for the eyes. Studying this aspect of their lives reveals a universal truth about human resilience. Our fundamental needs extend beyond the physical. We are wired for community, for purpose, and for a connection to something larger than ourselves. The success of these subterranean societies proves that when the external world is stripped away, the human spirit can build a new one from stories, faith, and the unbreakable bonds between people. This deep-seated need for a shared narrative would eventually compel them to leave marks not just on their walls, but in the very calendar of their lives, tracking time in a world without days. Fear and faith carved the ancient cities, while efficiency and economics build the modern ones. The foundational purpose of these two worlds, separated by centuries, reveals a dramatic pivot in the human story. For the inhabitants of Darinkuyu or the Ku-Kai tunnels, the earth was a shield. Every defensive corridor, every hidden ventilation shaft was a direct response to an existential threat, a testament to a society operating under immense pressure. Theirs was an architecture of desperation and profound resilience, born from the need to preserve a way of life against persecution, invasion, or environmental hardship. Primary design goal was absolute secrecy and self-sufficiency, creating a sealed ark that could endure for years if necessary. Today, the motivations are almost entirely inverted. The vast underground networks beneath Tokyo or Montreal are monuments to convenience and urban optimization. Their creation is driven by economic logic, solving problems of overcrowding, harsh weather, and expensive real estate. These are spaces of connection, not concealment, designed to enhance the flow of commerce and people rather than to halt it entirely. Even the massive server farms buried in old mines represent a new kind of strategic asset, protecting not people from armies, but priceless data from physical and cyber threats. This is a defense of capital and information, a reflection of our digital age. Yet, if you strip away the specific motivations, a profound constant remains. Both the ancient refugee and the modern engineer looked at the same problem, a challenge to their community's security or prosperity, and arrived at the same fundamental solution: to use the planet itself as a tool. This unbroken thread speaks to a core trait of human ingenuity, our relentless drive to reshape our environment to meet our needs, whether those needs are for survival from a sword or salvation from a traffic jam. The tools have evolved from chisels to tunnel boring machines, but the imaginative leap to build downward connects us directly to those who carved the first sanctuary from the stone. The similarities in design are too consistent to be mere coincidence. From the ventilation shafts of Cappadocia to the water systems of northern China, these underground worlds share a common architectural language, a global grammar of subterranean survival. This has led to a compelling, if controversial, question. Were these cities isolated refuges, or were they nodes in a much larger, loosely connected network that spanned continents? The idea of a physical tunnel snaking its way from Turkey to Egypt is the stuff of fantasy, of course. No such passage has ever been found, yet the parallels in engineering philosophy are undeniable. Different cultures, separated by vast oceans and deserts, all arrived at the same brilliant solutions for moving air, storing water, and constructing defensive labyrinths. How is this possible? One theory suggests that the knowledge itself traveled. Imagine a master builder, his skills honed in the soft tuff of Cappadocia, journeying along the Silk Road. He would have carried no maps of secret tunnels, but something far more valuable, the mental blueprint for carving a stable arch, for channeling a hidden aquifer, for disguising a city's only breath. This knowledge, passed from one craftsman to another in bustling caravanserais, could have spread the technology of underground living across the ancient world like a slow, silent whisper. The other, perhaps more profound, possibility is that humanity possesses a shared instinct for this kind of construction. When faced with the universal threats of war, persecution, or a harsh climate, the human mind, in its ingenuity, consistently looks downward and arrives at the same conclusions. The Earth itself becomes the teacher, and its lessons on stability, insulation, and concealment are the same everywhere. This perspective transforms our understanding of the ancient world. It suggests a hidden layer of cultural exchange, a clandestine sharing of survival strategies that operated beneath the notice of the great surface empires. It paints a picture of a planet where people were not just connected by the trade of silk and spices, but by the silent, desperate, and brilliant knowledge of how to disappear. The very rock beneath their feet determined the shape of their hidden world. This was not a matter of choice, but of pure necessity, a dialogue between human ambition and the unyielding reality of the landscape. In Cappadocia, the ground itself seemed to welcome the chisel, the region's soft volcanic tuff, a solidified ash that was surprisingly easy to carve with simple metal tools, would harden upon exposure to air, creating stable, lasting structures. This geological gift allowed for the creation of breathtaking multi-level complexes, with rooms, churches, and ventilation shafts that could be expanded almost like modeling clay. Contrast this with a landscape of hard, unyielding granite. In such a place, the sheer effort required to carve out a single room would have made a vast underground city an impossible dream. The Earth had to be a willing partner. Climate was the other decisive architect. A dry, stable environment was non-negotiable. In a region with heavy rainfall, the same soft, carvable rock would become a death trap, as water seepage would lead to inevitable collapse and catastrophic flooding. The ancient builders instinctively knew this. They sought out arid plateaus and stable, well-drained soils where the water table was deep and the threat of sudden deluge was minimal. This profound, intuitive understanding of their local environment was their true genius. They did not attempt to conquer the landscape, but to listen to it, to find the places where the planet's own structure offered sanctuary. They chose locations where they could integrate their needs with the natural properties of the stone and the climate, creating a perfect, sustainable symbiosis. This ancient principle of working with nature rather than against it echoes powerfully into our own modern conversations about architecture and resilience, proving that some of the most profound building codes were written not on parchment, but in the layers of the earth itself. These silent stone cities are a testament to a hidden dimension of human history, a chronicle of resilience carved not on parchment, but into the very bedrock of our planet. Our journey through these depths reveals a universal truth that our greatest innovations are often born from our most profound challenges. From the defensive labyrinths of Turkey to the spiritual sanctuaries of Cappadocia, and stretching all the way to the modern data vaults buried deep within former mines, these spaces are more than just shelters. They are a mirror reflecting our relentless will to survive, to preserve our communities, and to find meaning even in perpetual darkness. They teach us timeless lessons about the strength found in cooperation, the brilliance of sustainable design, and the unbreakable nature of the human spirit when faced with adversity. Each new discovery in these subterranean worlds offers more than just a glimpse into the past. It provides crucial wisdom for our future as we confront our own modern challenges, from resource scarcity to the search for sustainable living. The ingenious solutions of these ancient builders become more relevant than ever. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of the world beneath our feet. If this journey into history's greatest mysteries sparked your curiosity, I invite you to subscribe for more adventures. I would love to hear which underground city fascinates you the most, so please share your thoughts in the comments